As you can see, some of the contents in this lecture may be disturbing. It has been an extremely disturbing 19 months for us in Israel and surrounding countries. There are no graphic images, so you needn't be aware of that, but the topics raised are painful. I'm here to tell you my own story during that time, so it's not a theoretical lecture. I'm sure you're all very well informed about the theory behind trauma, repetition of trauma, etc., and the way we survive war. Hopefully this lecture will leave you with a taste of peaceful future. I'm naturally an optimistic. I think that to be a psychotherapist you have to be an optimist. Otherwise, what's the point? I think hope is one of the pillars of what we do. So I remain an optimistic, even though it's been quite hard at various points during this time. And thank you for being here. I don't know how many of you have been to Israel, or how many of you have been to the Middle East, or how much do you know about Israel, but just a tiny fact, I'll give some more later. There are 9 million people living in Israel. There are 9 million people living in Austria as well, but Austria is 4 times the size of Israel. Just to give you a proportion of the difference, Israel and the Middle East get disproportionate amount of attention in the media over the last 70, 80 years. There are various explanations to that. I won't go into that, that's a different lecture. I've just written an article about that, about the renewal of anti-Semitism around the world over the last 18 months. But I just want to say we are a very small country. Unfortunately, a lot of noise is being created around us. Some of it is being created by us. We cannot not take some responsibility. So the title of the lecture is maybe slightly misleading because it's impact upon me rather than general impact. I'm not going to show you any data, any statistical data, because that can be easily obtained through Google, etc., and ChatGPT, and I'm going to tell you my story. So, October the 7th, that's 640 days ago, 650 days ago, I can say genuinely that I was woken up to the worst nightmare that personally I experienced, I think, as an individual, but also as a collective. We were actually woken up by our son. We have a 23-year-old son who lives in Los Angeles, and he rang us up on Saturday morning, early Saturday morning, and asked, "Are you okay?" Because he heard the news. For him, it was the middle of the night. For us, it was early morning. Saturday, Shabbat, a day of rest, so we were naturally asleep. And we woke up to what turned out to be the beginning of a really, really tough time. On that morning, 6:30 in the morning, there was a barrage of missiles coming from Gaza Strip. Now, we're accustomed to missiles being fired from the Gaza Strip. It's been going on for decades now. And at first, also the people living next to Gaza Strip on the Israeli side thought, oh, this is just another attack. It'll pass in a few minutes, and then we can resume our lives. But that wasn't the case. That was a very well planned, it's been planned partly for more than a decade, an attack on Israel, coordinated with other terrorist organizations. I'm not sure how familiar you are with what the Gaza Strip is. It's a very small area. It will be a small neighborhood in Vienna, very small neighborhood in Vienna, which is being governed by the Palestinian Authority. It is not in Israeli territory. Israel has returned or withdrew from the Gaza Strip 2 decades ago as part of the peace accord, the peace process that is going on, and it's been ruled by the Palestinian Authority, which is an independent Arab governing body that has, of course, connections and a border with Israel, but it is not Israel. So this was an attack by governing by a neighboring, not state as yet, but there isn't a clear definition of what Gaza Strip is, but it certainly is not Israel. So we were woken up to that. Barrage of 4,300 rockets, and then about 6,000 terrorists, or most of them were terrorists, The second wave, there were just ordinary Gazan people who came into the Israeli territories, and in fact took over 21 communities and army bases. Israel had lost control for that during most of that Saturday, and it took the Israeli army almost a week before it was able to fight back and arrest and kill some of those terrorists and regain its sovereignty over that area. And many people died, many people were kidnapped, a lot of sexual atrocities were committed by the Palestinians invaders, not all of them. I can say I've seen some of the videos taken by those terrorists. It was live broadcast on Facebook, on Al Jazeera during those first hours. So not only did they commit terrible crimes, they actually filmed themselves doing it. And I think this is something that's maybe deserves another lecture, but the loss of shame. It actually it began in Yugoslavia. I don't know if any of you are aware of that. But in terrible times in Yugoslavia, many people, I won't say who did what, but some of the perpetrators of sexual crimes used to wave to the cameras while doing it, as if they're on film. So this was happening again here in Gaza, and of course it's happening all over the world. It's not unique to the Israeli conflict. Israel retaliated after realizing what's been going on. It was shocked at first, but it retaliated and started attacking Gaza, while at the same time being attacked from the north by Hezbollah, who's another terrorist organization, who's taking over Lebanon. It's not Lebanon, it's a terrorist organization that's taking over Lebanon quite a while ago. There's been wars with that organization over the last 2 decades as well. It's hard to talk about success, about war, but Israel did succeed in defending itself. Unfortunately, and as a result of that success, many Gazan people were also killed. Many of them were civilians, many of them were women and children, people who were not involved and certainly had no intent of attacking Israel, but because of the tactics of Hamas, their terrorist organization, it's impossible, not difficult, it's impossible to tell apart who is a civilian, who isn't, because the terrorist organization has infiltrated the Gazan society in such a way that they build their bases underneath hospitals, for instance, or inside schools. And the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, had no option but to bomb these places, knowing that innocent civilians might be killed, making sure that warnings were issued before attacks, trying to prevent and minimize death of uninvolved people, but unfortunately it is not always possible. So, as I said, not only more than 1,000 people have died, were killed, 250 Israelis, mostly civilians, at least a third of them women, some children, a 1-year-old baby was taken hostage. He was later murdered while being in Hamas captivity. There have been negotiations, probably some of this you know already from the media, I'm sure you follow that. It's been getting headlines. Today, still 50 people are held hostages. The Red Cross has not been allowed to visit them. Some of them are in critical medical conditions. And Israel is taking prisoners as well, but Israel, being a democratic state, is allowing the Red Cross to visit those Palestinian prisoners. They are getting, well, I can't say being in prison is never nice, but they're being treated humanely and get 3 meals a day, including meat, and are treated, and their religion is being respected. We can't say that about the 251 prisoners taken by Hamas. So it wasn't just an attack from Gaza, it was a coordinated attack. At the same time that missiles were coming from Gaza, missiles were starting to come in from Lebanon, causing great damage to the north of Israel. As I said, Israel is a very small country. It's narrow, if you can see it on the map, it's like like a strip of land going along the Mediterranean, very narrow. The narrowest part of Israel is only 30 kilometers wide. Only 30 kilometers separate the sea and Jordan. Just to give you an example of how small Israel is. And it's far from being over. Only yesterday, Israel had to attack military headquarters in Syria. The situation in the Middle East is very bad. I know there are hopes, and the American President Trump, regardless of the public image he has, I think he's genuine in his efforts to try a peace accord. But that is not the topic of my lecture. So, my parents fled Europe during the 40s, and that is why I'm here, because the rest of the family that stayed in Europe were murdered by the Nazis and the Allies. My mother is from Greece. She lost all of her family. She was 2 years old when she came to Israel with her parents. The rest of the family were decimated. She grew up with no uncle, no aunts, no cousins. My father came from Bulgaria. Bulgarian, as you well know, tried to stay away from executing the Nazi operation and managed to keep the Bulgarian Jews safe. Most of them stayed in Bulgaria during the war, even though they were sent to war camps. They weren't treated nicely, but at least they survived. And later, a lot of them emigrated to Israel during the 50s. Quite a big Jewish community still lives in Bulgaria, and I think it's thriving. I've been there several times. So I grew up, as most Israeli citizens, with the notion that it will never happen again. The Jews will never be attacked again in such a severe, and will never be defenseless as we were in Europe during the Second World War. October the 7th, 2023, we thought it is happening again. Again, we're defenseless. We're being attacked on 3 fronts, and for a time, even though I don't think there was any real existential danger, I don't think Israel would have been run over by Hamas or Hezbollah, but for many people, the trauma was repeated. People felt threatened emotionally. And the wonderful thing that did happen, just next slide, or always forget to pass on slides. These are the execution cards that the Nazis issued to my family in Thessaloniki, the Korean family. I wrote a book about the legacy that they left behind. So after sort of recovering from the initial shock, I really believe in that. The despair is not an option. As human beings, we should never stay desperate. We should always find something to regain and retain our sense of agency and ask ourselves, what can I do in order to better my life and to better the life of my community? So after recovering from the initial shock and echoes of the trauma, because it did feel like some of the sites we saw along the Gaza border were very similar to the sites and stories we've heard about during the Holocaust. And I don't go with that notion, but the Hamas terrorists were compared to the Nazis in the sense that they did inhuman acts of barbarity against defenseless people. And I'm not going to go into the origins or the reasons for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I'm just saying some of the sites were re-evoked the trauma that Israelis live with, Jews all around the world live with. So as I said, I wasn't prepared to just feel depressed and sad and stop doing what I do. And what I'm going to tell you about now, which that's the bulk part of my lecture, how I'm doing for time, and I've got time. The bulk part of my lecture is about what I did, what I am still doing, and what a lot of my colleagues are still doing in order to regain a sense of control amidst the insanity that is unfortunately still going on. The war is far from being over. The situation is not as dire as it was on October the 7th, but it's far from being over. So there are 4 areas that I've been active in throughout my life, actually, throughout my life as an adult. First one, the major one, therapy. I'm a clinical social worker. I practice psychoanalytic psychotherapy. I teach psychotherapy at the Haifa University. So I joined various projects that were sprouting in Israel at that time to support the 330 evacuees, as well as families who have survived. These are people that had to leave the villages or towns in the south and north of Israel and had to find housing. Some of them have lost their dear ones. They lost their homes. So obviously they're in great emotional stress. So I would say thousands of social workers, psychologists, and other counselors joined various civil projects to offer free pro bono support to those families. Talking about immediate, mainly focused psychodynamic therapy to help those families try to make sense of their loss. 330,000 people is quite a big proportion of 9 million people. So I saw 12 families during the first 6 months following October the 7th. And I had terrible stories. I heard stories of people hiding in their shelter, holding the handle of the door from inside and hearing Arabic spoken on the other side by the terrorist, not knowing if they'll have enough strength to hold that handle for long enough until they went away. There was one particular family that I remember hearing that story from, and the father was not a weak man, but after several hours he got tired because he had to maintain his strength to hold that handle, because in cases where people weren't able to do that, the door was open and people either shot or kidnapped. And he wasn't alone in his room, in that safe room. He was there with his wife and 2 children. One of them was 10 years old. And at some point, the 10-year-old boy got up. This is what the parents told me. Got up and held the father's hand with him, knowing very well that if they failed in keeping the terrorists out, they will die. So this is very, I think you can see why I started earlier saying the images that were evoked in Israeli psyche, collective psyche, were images like the images, or like what actually happened during the Holocaust, where kids witnessed their parents being slaughtered and felt totally defenseless. So this is just a short example of what I went through in this part. And of course, I cannot forget as a psychotherapist, as a compassionate human being, that people on the other side of the border, in Gaza, at that very same time suffered terrible experiences as well. Thousands of children died as a result of our bombing, my army. And I can imagine what they went through, seeing their parents be defenseless. So for me, as a psychotherapist, it doesn't really matter if you're an Israeli, Jewish, Arabic, Muslim, Christian. I think about the individuals and what they had to live through, what they had to survive in order to maintain a sense of humanity. So I think if I was a Palestinian standing here in Gaza, I would tell you probably similar experiences happening to me as a Gazan, but I'm not. I'm an Israeli Jew, and I can only talk about my own personal experience. So psychotherapy was very important. Yesterday we had Katerina talk about how important that in the training of being a psychotherapist, how important it is to go through your own therapy, to work out your own issues in order to be able to help. So me as a psychotherapist, offering help to families of other Israelis who've been through terrible times, was very hard sometimes to maintain those boundaries. To talk about transference, countertransference. For me, countertransference is the same as transference. It's the same paradigm, it's experienced from both sides. So it wasn't easy as a psychotherapist, as an Israeli, to be sitting in a room with families that could have been me, could be my family. I could have been attacked. Luckily, we live in a town which is right in the middle of Israel, Pardes Chana. So we weren't under any immediate threat, but we could have been. Friends of ours, family members of myself and my wife, were in such places where they were threatened. I lost my children, both 27 and 23 respectively. They lost friends in that party, the Nova party. My eldest son's first girlfriend was murdered. She was there at that party. So we had first-hand experience and knowledge of the people there. So all that went through my mind. So I'm trying to do psychotherapy, focused dynamic psychotherapy, which is one of the topics I teach at university. It's very hard to maintain the professional attire that's required of one when trying to offer help. So I hope I was successful to the extent that we were able to regain some of their life. And I cannot talk about returning to normality because we haven't, not sure we ever will. The second area that I was involved with, which helped me to remain sane, basically. Before I became a social worker and a psychotherapy, I was a photographer and a video and stills photographer. So I joined this organization called Edut 710, Testimony 710. Edut is testimony in Hebrew. And this is a group of cinematographers, psychologists, journalists, historians, who wanted to document, give testimony to what had happened during that morning. And since then, we've interviewed more than 1,500 people who had direct experience along the Gazan border and in the north, who survived. They told the stories to camera. And I video edited 150 testimonies, literally to save my soul. I felt that was the way, because as I told you earlier, that morning I was glued to the computer watching Al Jazeera and Facebook. And believe me, you do not want me to tell you what I've seen there, and you do not want to watch those videos live, but I did, unfortunately. They're forever imprinted on my mind. I wish there was a way, maybe Mark's forums in the morning will help me find a way of erasing those images from my mind. So editing those videos of survivors helped me to regain hope, regain faith, seeing how human beings can survive the worst situations. And I'm going to show you now two examples. The stories are not easy, as I said, but it's only people speaking. There are no images. So I hope you can sit and watch these films. Please, first one. Dining.
So immediately I got into the mamad and I closed the windows and also the door. So when I thought to be in the mamad it will be safe. So I was not afraid of the rockets that may come and hit the mamad, but when I heard the sound of gun shooting, I was really scared. So I thought they can come inside. That is terrorists. They can come inside and they can also just open the door and they can also shoot at me. So that is what I was scared. So maybe around 8:30, Arina called me and she asked me, "How is everything? Is everything safe?" And I told her, "We are in the mamad. So far, we are safe. I don't know what is going to happen." So she told me, just keep in touch with us. Phone. Luckily there was electricity and also there was internet, so I could contact with Reena. So around 9 o'clock, I heard the sound of some people talking and knocking at the door. So I was scared and I did not open the door. But anyway, after some time, some people came inside and they were talking and they were shouting inside the house. So I asked Reena to just call some of the neighbors and find out if they can who is inside the house. But there was a camera inside. It was connected with her mobile, and she checked, and she said it is the soldiers, so we can open the door. So when I opened the door, I saw they came inside with 2 wounded soldiers. So they were there for maybe 15 minutes. Then after some time, they took the wounded soldiers by the car. So then the soldiers left, and they said that they told me to be in the mamad, not to come out. So then Rina also was calling me and telling me, asking me to give something to eat to Yora. There is some food in the fridge, but I was afraid to go out from the room. But anyway, I took a risk and I went out, opened the fridge and took some food, and I fed Yora. But he was also quiet in the room. Then maybe I was sitting there and I was so scared, I turned off all the lights because I was afraid not want to just turn on the lights. And after some time, Reina called me on WhatsApp. It was a video call, and she was asking me, why you are sitting in the room? It is so dark. Why don't you put on the light? There is also a TV. You can just turn on the TV. Then I turned on the TV and I saw what was going on outside. Then maybe around 12:30 like that, some soldiers again they came inside. And they were not the one who came first, they were some other soldiers, and they knocked at the door and they asked me to open. When I opened, they asked some questions at the gun point. Who are you? What are you doing here? I said, I am a caregiver taking care of Yora. Then they said, it's okay. It is not so safe to come out. Just sit inside the mamad. So then again, I was sitting in the room with Yoram, and Yoram's grandson also was sending me some messages that military people is outside. They are searching for the terrorist, so you don't worry about it. Don't be afraid. Just be safe there, because he's also working in the army. So we were waiting and waiting. We did not know what is going to happen in future. Not in the future, means maybe in the coming hours. So anyway, we waited, and around 9 o'clock, the soldiers came inside. 9 o'clock night. Then they said, we are going to ship you from here. Just get ready. Take only what you need, means only for emergency.
There's another video, but maybe we'll show it at the end if there's enough time. So there are more than 1,000 testimonies like that. You can see them on YouTube. I chose just 3 that are speak English, but all have captions if you want to look at them. So second area where I felt I was able to contribute some of my skills was through community support. I volunteered to this organization called Augen Mishpachot HaMiluim, the anchor to the families of IDF soldiers. Needless to say, all soldiers were drafted on that morning and leaving behind their families, their kids, and most of them have not been home for very long periods of time, and those of us who stayed behind were trying to support them, because everybody's life turned upside down. People had a job to go to, shops to open, etc. After a few weeks of fighting, people began to run out of money because salaries weren't going in if you are self-employed, for instance. So this organization, which is nationwide, was set up by volunteers. It's a totally voluntary organization. And as I said, I live in a town called Pardes Chana that has 40,000 residents. And we took care of families that stay behind, of soldiers. we managed to recruit many volunteers, like ordinary citizens, quite often elderly people, but not always, that used to cater for the basic needs of those families. You can imagine as a woman staying at home with your kids, father's been taken into the army, and you're not sure when he's going to come back, the panic that the kids suffer. So a lot of emotional care was involved in this support. It wasn't just physical needs like meals, etc., but that was an essential part of what we did. And this is still going on. It's amazing. That's one of the things that gives me hope, seeing the spirit of volunteers in this particular town, but everywhere in Israel. After waking up, and this is to do with never again. Never again will Jews be isolated and not being able to support one another. So one of the strengths, if you can say, that resulted from what's been going on is the mutual support and the civil network that's been happening in Israel and still is happening. So that also gave me a sense of agency, of I'm doing something. These are pictures. We organize gifts during Jewish festivals. Some families receive food daily, groceries, dog walking, and we took some pictures just to show the appreciation of the families. And I think, but I feel I'm indebted to those families who give me the opportunity to help them. I'm too old to fight, but I can do that. And the fourth area, which is perhaps the most significant. I've been a peace activist throughout my life since I was 14. I remember myself realizing that time that war will achieve nothing. There's a saying in Hebrew that if you're gonna kill somebody, you better dig two graves, one for the person you kill and one for yourself, because revenge will sure follow. So following the path of war is pointless. Freud talked about that during the Second World War, before the Second World War. He had a very interesting exchange with Einstein about war. He had an explanation as to why war goes on. He saw it as a developmental deficiency, that we're not able to resolve our Oedipal complex collectively. And at times of stress, what we do is group around an ideal, usually a false ideal, or a leader, usually a false psychotic leader, and maintain the boundaries of the group like that, and fight one another. So I'm not prepared to do that. I feel proud of my country. I'm a proud Israeli, I'm a proud Jew, and I choose to do whatever I can to maintain a dialogue with people who are, some of them possibly are my enemies. Some of them do want to kill me, I know that, and we got evidence for that on October the 7th. But nevertheless, they cannot decimate my belief in the struggle for hope. So I've done various things throughout my life, and I think this is a significant one. Road to Recovery was established in 2010 by a friend of mine, Yuval Roth, whose brother was kidnapped and killed by Hamas back in 1995. Soon after, the Oslo Peace Accord was signed. Yes, the Oslo Peace Accord was signed. His brother was killed, and Yuval, instead of seeking revenge, responded to a call of a Palestinian friend of his who needed a ride to hospital, and took the child to hospital where he received treatment for cancer. And since then, and then he told me and told other people, and we all joined in. And now this Road to Recovery organization has been, up to October the 7th, driving thousands of children from the West Bank and the Gaza Strip on daily life-saving medical treatments. Some of the people who tried to kill us on October the 7th were the parents of those children. Such is the complexity of living in Israel. Nevertheless, so needless to say, unfortunately now there are no rides from Gaza, But we soon resumed taking Palestinian children from the West Bank to life-saving medical treatments all over Israel. So this is going on. And Yuval, my friend, says, think of that ride where you're taking the child to a hospital as a small piece. You know, now the child may not remember you when he grows up, if he grows up and remains healthy, but you've done your little bit to contribute towards peace. And I firmly believe that, because I don't believe in grand actions. I believe in finding that particular contribution we can make as individuals to affirm our sense of agency. So this is carrying on and going strong. In the numbers of children and adults, Palestinian children and adults, we, Israeli Jews, are taking to life-saving medical treatments in Israel, it is going on. And this is something you don't see on CNN. Although Yuval was chosen to be a CNN Man of the Year a few years back. And towards the end, so these are some pictures. This is me in various trips, and we've also organized fun days for the kids from the West Bank. The West Bank has no access to the sea. It's bang in the middle between Jordan and Israel. So for those kids to see the sea is wow. It's a wild experience, and we're doing that these days. So I end with a message of peace in all possible languages. And I beg you not to believe everything you read in the news. If you want to be involved in what goes on in Israel and the Middle East, dig deeper. Talk to Israelis, talk to Palestinians, talk to Lebanese, talk to Iranians. Thank you for my Iranian colleague who is here. I really appreciate and respect your presence here. I'm not taking it for granted. This is a room where an Iranian and Israeli can be together without fighting. We may disagree, we may have opposing views, but we can be in the same room and talk with one another. So this is what we can all do, and I think each one of us have the personal responsibility to do that, to try to do that as much as possible. So I leave you with this message of peace. We pray for the return of all hostages. This symbolizes the campaign for the return of all hostages, the end to war, full recovery, body and soul, and everlasting peace. And this is me. Some details. Thank you.
For this really, in my opinion, moving and emotional lecture on a very important topic. Thank you for guiding us through this dichotomy of despair and hope, and ending it with a note of hope. And now I would like to ask you all if you have any questions or comments and notes.
I would like to, because you ended your speech in digging deeper, how do you, as a psychotherapist with your background, how do you react? Because I don't know how much you get it, like, but the left-wing scene in Austria and Europe, it starts to be very pro-Palestinian, and then the things about like never again, and now you see what you do to us now, and it's a lot of like you and us, and now the Zionists are the bad ones. So like, without having the time to give a full lecture, like how can you react to people that shame you for being like pro-Israel without being pro anyone who is in charge there, and who still thinks that a state like Israel should exist? Like, what's your catch? Do you have a catchphrase or something that you can offer us?
Well, I usually begin by telling them how small Israel is.
Yeah.
That's a really good starter, because the amount of media attention Israel gets in the press makes it sound like it's a continent.
No, it's like Lower and Upper Austria together.
It's a quarter of Austria, the same number of people. And no, it's a very good question, because some of the people who would approach me do not want a dialogue, and with them I cannot talk. I just try to keep safe and walk away. But if somebody is prepared to have a dialogue, I will listen to them as a psychotherapist. I'll try to understand what's their grievance, what causing them stress. And I have done that, and I find that a lot of people have personal issues, roots that are causing them to identify with this or the other. I'm a very Jewish Zionist, but I'm also pro-Palestine. I think Palestinians, as everybody, need to have the privilege or the right to lead normal life. So I start by that. I'm not against anybody, I'm pro-life. So I try to be, as a psychotherapist, this is what Freud taught us about listening. I try to first listen and keep my subjectivity at the background. So I'm not there to voice my opinion. I'm there to give space so that other persons see what's troubling me, even if they shout at me. If they want to kill me, I will not let that happen.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. And you and me, both of us, are the member of the board of World Council for Psychotherapy.
I am. We both are.
And you know that all members of the board of psychotherapy has a good relationship, and they are friends. As you know, you and me yesterday take several photos. However, I have two questions. The first question is about Gaza, and the second question is about in Iran. What's your opinion as a psychotherapist for genius of Gaza by the Israeli army, Israeli government, Netanyahu? And you mentioned that many women, many civilian women and children are killed. Still, they are killing. Still, I need the news told that 2 days ago that attack to Israel to Gaza, and it was better to show you go to one side. If it was better to talk about as a psychotherapist to both sides of it. What happened for the people of this civilian? It was not any guilty. You have not any guilty people. And I am not agree with the 7 October attack by Hamas. I am not but I agree with them. However, I condemned to killing, condemned the Israeli government and Netanyahu that killing in this area, they want to, they occupied, just know they occupied Gaza. And this is one question, that what is your opinion about that? How the United Nations condemned in Netanyahu as a genocide, and what is your opinion as a psychotherapist, not Israeli or Iranian, not Iranian only, both psychologists but psychotherapists, because I believe that, yesterday talked about that Iranian people and Israeli people are not enemy.
Absolutely. I'd like to answer that.
You and me, they are not enemy. The government, politician, we are not politicians.
Totally. So as a psychotherapist,
I second the second. After the
yes. So as a psychotherapist, I heard the loss and pain of all Gazans, even the terrorists. Because I think one becomes a terrorist as a result of anguish. I don't believe that people are evil. Unlike Freud, I think Freud believed that people are evil, truth, but I don't believe that. So it hurts me that so many have died. And I think I'm not here to defend any government, but I know that my government has done its utmost to defend helpless civilians, and is offering humanitarian help as we speak to the same people who have attacked Israel. It is Israel who's sending in truckloads of food into the Gaza Strip, and those truckloads are sabotaged by Hamas, and they use it for their own black market purposes. So, as a psychotherapist, it hurts me that so many innocent people have died on both sides. And I'm not here in the number game. It doesn't matter whether more people here or there died. Each loss is terrible. Each child had families. So I'm offering a way forward based on social activism, participation, always offering a hand for peace if that person is prepared to accept it. If not, I will fight them. But if they're willing to have a dialogue, I'm here, always ready. Second question.
Sorry, I would just like to give the opportunity to the other person who wanted to ask a question, because we need to keep an eye on time, because we're already running short on time.
Thank you. This is just a very quick question. First, thank you very much for your presentation. Second, maybe it's utopian, but did you also have contact or knowledge of Palestinian psychotherapists who do same work as you do in your community or even cross communities?
Absolutely. There are many Palestinians live within Israel and outside Israel. They belong to the same group. Due to the wars, 48, 67, etc., some of them had to leave their homes, some of them were sent away from their homes. So yes, I have many Palestinians, they call themselves Israeli Arabs, but are in fact Palestinians who live within the state of Israel and are equal citizens like myself. And yes, they have been participating in the recovery operations. They have been hurt as much as the Jews in Israel. Their house have been bombed. The Hamas rocket cannot tell an Arab house from a Jewish house. They've incurred many Jews' villages as well. They've incurred a lot of damage. And yes, they've been very active in joining. We joined forces. Yeah.
Because I also think that being a psychotherapist is also part of one's identity, I guess. Yeah. So this is something that might be helpful to build peace, because.
Yeah, but you can work with somebody with whom you have a difference, as long as you have a goal that unites you. And as a psychotherapist, we want to alleviate pain, don't we, and find ways to freedom. And as long as this person is prepared to talk with me. Thank you.
Okay, then we have time for one more question now.
Thank you. Iran has never attacked any country or state in the last 2,000 years. Why the Israeli government attacked Iran?
Because Iran has repeatedly said, over the years, has said that it's developing nuclear weapon in order to demolish Israel. It's been written up in posters all over Tehran. Iran has been very honest about its intention to obtain nuclear weapons so it can destroy Israel. There's no ways about it. That's why Israel and America went about preventing them from having that capacity. Because I'm pretty sure that if the current Iranian government would have such weapon, they would try to kill Israel, to destroy Israel. The October 7th attack was coordinated backstage by Iran. Iran is supplying both Hamas, Hezbollah, and other militias around the region in order to form what they call a ring of fire. This is public. You can read it on websites. To create a ring of fire around Israel so Israel would collapse. So we had to do that, unfortunately.
Iran?
But this is getting quite political.
Iran has no plan to build nuclear weapon. However, Israel has nuclear power.
Of course we do.
You know, And
unofficial.
Yes. If, for example, if just know I tell you I want to kill you, do you kill me before any action for me?
It depends what you do. Yes, I might. If you hold a gun or about to draw a gun at me, I will stop you.
No, only just I read about the final war. Iran has never attacked any country or a state
apart from
in the
Iraq,
last 2,000 years.
Apart from Iraq.
But whenever we have been attacked and invaded by a foreign country, our people, regardless of their beliefs and view and whatever kind of government we have had, have united and stood up to foreigner and resisted, and in the end we have won. If Trump and Netanyahu had paid attention to this historical background, they would never have attacked our country, and now they have been the result of how we stood up to the enemies with strength and won. Although we suffered a lot of losses, we ultimately won.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know this is a very complex and controversial topic, and now I'm afraid we will have to end the session here because the next lecture is starting already in 5 minutes, and it's a good time to take a break. But let's thank Dr. Alfandary